to get to somewhere good in their
And
life.
we've heard from many former football players in the Oakland area and professional football players who have spoken up about Coach John Beam, who has made such a big impact on so many. John Beam, who has made such a big impact on so many.
So he's buffering.
Who he has helped, who he has mentored, who he has coached throughout his 40-some year career. So a big loss to the Bay Area, and this is for people across the country as well, as we learned that Coach Beam passed away from those gunshot wounds just now.
And they clarified some of the time. I mean, this was a shooting that happened yesterday just before noon, and then here we got to today, and it was around 10 a.m. this morning that Coach Beam passed away. And they said that they were doing prayer circles over at the hospital with so many different people
Breaking news, guys.
that knew him. So certainly our condolences go out to his family and friends.
66 years old, leaves behind his family and, of course, people that probably called him family as well. We will have much more for you on this developing story. We have several reporters covering it there at Laney College and throughout the Bay Area. So we are going to continue reporting on the arrest and the latest developments in this case, and we will bring you that breaking news update on ABC7 here on air, and of course our ABC7 Bay Area app and on abc7news.com.
For now, we want to go back to GMA3.
Okay. There was some breaking news right there. We'll stop sharing. Guys, thanks for joining us. Jason J. Daniels Show. We just jumped on live because we missed the press conference on John Beam. And I have so many things going on. The press conference for John Beam. And so it was breaking news. We wanted to jump right in. But my name is Jason J. Daniels. You're watching the Jason J. Daniels Show. I have a guest with me that is a very staunch advocate of stopping the crime in Oakland. Mindy Petchnik. Mindy, how are you this morning?
Good. I wish the circumstances were better, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's terrible, terrible stuff. Mindy, thank you for joining me. Impromptu, sure. And that's how you are. You're always ready. You're always there. You're always caring about Oakland and on top of things. Look at that. They're blowing you up, right? You've got your sources are everywhere. So we were going to talk about, we normally meet once every 2 weeks or something. We talk about all these things, right? You've been a champion of crime, a champion against crime, a champion of the Oakland police, power to the citizens, and also education, right? And the kids. This impacts the story. We'll talk about in a second. We'll do a recap for everybody. John Beam passes away. He was savagely attacked and shot in the head yesterday on an Oakland campus, a college campus. And he's a Netflix star. I did not know that. We'll get into that. I'm a sports guy, but it's interesting. This is a documentary I just didn't want to watch, and I'll tell you why. So I never watched it. I watch them all, but there was a reason why I didn't want to watch this one, but we'll talk about that later. Not too germane, but anyway. But he was shot on a campus in Oakland, in a school, gun violence. Here we go again. It's a murder. So before we get into your thoughts, share with the audience, if the first time seeing you, who you are, and talk about your campaign a little bit.
Hi, as Jason said, my name is Mindy Petchnik, and I am running for mayor in the November 2026 election here in Oakland. And this is not my first try at running. And I know that if I were mayor of Oakland, this tragedy would not have happened, or the tragedy at Skyline High School, where a young student was shot. Fortunately, as far as I know, he's still alive, but in the hospital.
That's right, too. We don't want to ignore that right before there was a shooting of a teenager, right?
Right. A teenager, looks like he was shot by two other teenagers. And in his high school, Skyline High School, which is in the hills, the Oakland Hills. So it was the young high school student was shot first, and then the next day, Coach Beam was shot. So what's happening? What's going on? This is why I actually have called for President Trump to bring in the National Guard to Oakland. This is needed. This would not have happened because we would have been rounding up and creating a different city, which is what my fight for mayor is about, not only in 2026, but what must be done now. And I call on everyone listening, or everyone that will listen to this podcast, to look at this tragedy and say to themselves, what do I need to change in myself to become more involved and to support my campaign for mayor and to support the changes we need in Oakland, which are all doable, every one of them. But when you have misleadership, like the Barbara failed Lee and the decades before her of Sheng Tao and the other mayors before that, and the city council, which is by and large completely corrupted, and you have a takedown of your police force and a culture created in the city. And it's not just Oakland, obviously, we see it around the country. But, look at the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Look at the attempted assassination of President Trump. Look at the innocent people getting killed every day on the streets of our cities, whether it's Oakland, Chicago, Memphis, both physically in gun violence, stabbings, more on drugs. Think about how many people have died from drug overdoses on the streets of our city. And I'll get into that a little later because it's related to this question. So that's why I'm running for mayor, to make the changes now and to mobilize my fellow Oaklanders to realize they have the power not to be slaves to this establishment, but to actually break free mentally and physically and work with me to reestablish an Oakland where these kinds of tragedies will not be on our shoulders in the future. So that's how I'd open up, Jason.
Yeah, well said. I would expect nothing less from you. Well, everything you said is just, sadly, is so like cogent. And here we are again, right? Another murder, another Oakland killing, another savage method and execution. I mean, the whole thing's weird. We'll get into the details for those that are joining, and it's breaking news for a lot of people. But Mindy, the reason why it's really important for you to be on and on this is with me is you're the only one talking about it. The only one. That's a politician that's running. And we know that Barbara Lee is just pantomiming. She's not doing anything. She's sitting around doing nothing. And her statement was just weak, and she deserves the criticism and we give it to her all the time. But when are people going to realize that a vote for a left-wing radical Democrat who is completely bought and paid for by the Democrat Party, when are we going to learn that that's just basically inviting more death? That's what it is. It's the death cult, and they don't care. And now maybe they'll care because this guy was a Netflix star, and I'm not, I'm not devaluing that, but it's huge news. A lot of it has to do with because he was on a Netflix show that I didn't get a chance to watch, and apparently he was a really wonderful guy. I haven't seen anything negative online about him at all, and people are stunned. Talk about the reaction. You tracked Barbara Lee extensively, and I saw the story because you posted it on X, right? When I was picking up some food last night and couldn't stay off my phone and saw it while I was working on something else. So talk about the reaction. You talked about what you would do as mayor, and I want to get into that headspace. Talk about her reaction to this in your opinion on it.
Yeah, her reaction is like everything she's doing and has done. It's an empty shell. And I say this very directly because I was thinking the other day, I was driving around Oakland, I had to do some errands. And you see all these new curb things being put in, supposedly for wheelchairs and blind people, these yellow grades. And you see, where she's cleaned up a certain area only to be filled back up again.
Right.
But, or put a new, gravel in somewhere else with some trees. And I said to myself, and I said to my husband, Gerald, I said, This is all cosmetic. You know, it's all cosmetic. It's like putting lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig. And that's how I think of what Barbara Lee is doing. Because she's doing everything to say, look, make it look nice, make it look beautiful, make it look safe on the surface. But if you look at the shootings of the last 2 days, the drug overdoses, the amount of people being destroyed, and she does nothing about that. Nothing. The city is getting sued because of broken contracts, because of a campaign she was involved in with members of the city council like Carol Fife and Gaio, which said no coal into Oakland, and now we probably be sued for up to $600 million.
That's staggering, by the way.
The city cannot sell its bonds. We are that bankrupt. The city cannot sell its bonds. You look at the school system, totally falling apart. And yet she's more concerned about appearances. And that's what I think
100%.
about these shootings.
Well, it's interesting. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to say it's appearances, and people should see through that. It's
Well,
time to go ahead. No, go ahead. No, you get it.
Sorry. You say so many great things. And there's a little bit of a delay, so sorry about that.
Okay.
It's just the way it is on the remote. Yeah, she's just so invisible, except for the stuff that when something goes wrong, she comes out and does a statement, but she's not doing anything. And what you're saying is extremely powerful. They voted someone in to do something, and they've done nothing. It's unbelievable, except more people except fight Trump. And I'm just sitting, I'm so exhausted by it. It's just like, okay, we get it. Everyone, in Oakland, hates Trump, whatever. People are dying. The hatred of Trump is encouraging violence. That is what it is. And not getting, not rounding up. I mean, she hasn't even done like there are things that you would do to act like you're doing something, but not really do something, right? Like a forum on crime and just talk about it. She's not even doing that.
You just reminded me of something, Jason, if you don't mind me interjecting so I don't forget the thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
Our police, in the middle of all this, we don't have a police chief. He resigned.
That's right.
We have an acting police chief, but our police chief resigned. And I believe because his hands are tied with the police commission and with her. Because
can you imagine?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about covering her ass. So right now, what my prediction is, it's just going to be, we're sad. That's going to be the response. We're so sad, and we're going to prosecute. They did catch a guy, innocent until proven guilty. It's so sad, but there's going to be no action to stop it. There's going to be no kicking down doors, raiding the neighborhood, who knows who, nothing like that. And so, what's interesting is John Houston or Ken Houston? Is that the
Ken Houston, the city councilman? Yeah.
So interesting, and we'll back up and we'll break down the story for those that are joining us. But New York Times this morning had a Ken Houston. He got himself in the New York Times, which is so preposterous. First of all, I was like, who? I forgot he was a council person. He's that irrelevant. And yes, I'm being derogatory because what he did, I thought was just disgusting. He was back channeling to the New York Times, giving them information on, they caught somebody. So they're involved in the celebrity of it. They're involved in the story, not involved in the privacy of the family or being respectful. I mean, it's disgusting. Now, that's my opinion. I'm not putting that on Mindy. Mindy, it's my opinion. I couldn't believe that a council person who shouldn't be talking to the media is talking to the media, and then the police confirmed it after. Like, he leaked it. So that hit, and then unfortunately, John died, and that hit 30 minutes ago or something. So
right.
When you said the council's corrupt, there's it's not an understatement. I mean, if I was on the council and this was all going on, the New York Times called me, I'd be like, hey, you should be talking to the mayor, or you should be talking to the police. I'm a council guy that has nothing to do with it except I'm reading it on the. I mean, obviously he's getting insight. So, and then I go to the webpage for him. I'm like, well, what's this guy about? The first two things, and I didn't want to turn this into a show on him, but whatever.
That's okay.
The first two things he talks about on his campaign, you know, his mission. What's the first thing he has on there, Mindy? Crime.
Crime. Okay. I haven't been to his website.
Thing he has on there he's against gun crime. So the top two things these council people know is the problem, they're doing nothing about it. And it is except talking to the New York Times when unfortunately an innocent, I'm assuming innocent, there's no reason for somebody to die like that, innocent man who people loved is murdered. And hey, let's back channel to the New York Times. That's good. That is the problem with Oakland, is they have the worst people in power. It's and yes, it's all about that. I'm sorry, it is, and that's why, you know, I have to apologize. I have my Mindy shirt. It wasn't ready for this show, so apologies to the campaign. That's why I'm all on board, because Oakland needs somebody who's not one, normal, two, not a radical. And the only way Oakland and these cities are going to get out, that are so blue, are going to get out of these problems, I know wishful thinking, is a Republican conservative candidate like Mindy. I have no apologies saying that, because it is what it is. So that's why Mindy is on with me, and she's a wonderful person, very gracious, and cares about Oakland. She's driving around caring about Oakland. I think Barbara Lee drives around, doesn't even care about Oakland. It's obvious. So, Mindy, I'll let you respond to that. Any thoughts on?
Yeah, I will. I have some thoughts on what you said. I have to look at that New York Times article. I hadn't seen it. I didn't.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's crazy.
For sure.
Well, yeah. It was when they caught the guy, the news was breaking, and then New York Times, I'm going, oh wow, because everybody's talking about it. So I click it, and the first thing they say is confirmed by city councilman. I'm like, why is he talking for the police? I couldn't believe it.
No, it's just opportunism, and it's opportunism. And I do have some thoughts from what you passed through my mind as you were talking, Jason, which is that, see, if the city council really cared about the crime, there's a number of things they could do right now in an instant. One is bring in an outside audit and find all the corruption. And a lot of it's going to lead right back to the members of the city council and others in the city. Number one, that's why they
right.
Number two, they'd find that they have a lot more funds to spend, which could have been used to increase our police force. Our police force is down to like 500 something active officers a day. Now, when your city is in this bad a shape, financially, morally, I saw it today, and I was a little bit outraged by it, that you can have a young kid in high school shot. You can have Coach Beam, literally like an execution to the head, shot and now killed.
Yeah.
And yet the big news was painting gay pride on the sidewalks or a street. Now that should alarm people, because what's the priority? What is the city council could increase the funding to police? It's not a budget problem. It's a mismanaged city and corruption, like Carol Fife, who does line her pockets with lots of money.
Yeah. Well, let me just jump in and say that if they started to aggressively attack crime fund the police, that's against their lunatic liberal philosophy to give the police money. They do it begrudgingly. I hope people understand that. If they could cut the budget completely, these lunatics would do it. They were on the when it was defund the police, they were the first nutty politicians to actually take that seriously. So I'm just backing you up on that. They do not care. And they actively do not want the police to have a serious, massive force. Wouldn't that change everything if Oakland all of a sudden became this badass police force that was just full of weapons, right, and resources, the criminals would think twice. And I'll just say this: a man walks on campus in the middle of the day. John Laney, I'm sorry, Laney's the name of the college. I'm sorry, John Beam walks onto Laney, walks up to, I think he was in one of the buildings or like in a public.
House. I think he was in the field house.
Yeah, shoots him in the head like a coward, whoever it was. This guy Cedric allegedly walks off, broad daylight. This is not somebody who is accidentally killing people. It's not somebody who it's his first time. This is a professional criminal. And when his rap sheet comes out, this is what we're going to see. I don't have inside info. I'm just predicting this. He'll have a rap sheet of all sorts of crimes in Oakland where they let him go over and over. That's who these guys get. They get somebody who doesn't mind going back to prison, or who has a record, who doesn't mind throwing their life away, who's a low IQ enforcer that will kill someone. Like, this is what happened. Oakland, you had an execution, Oakland, of a famous guy. They don't care. You think that a guy like that would bring total heat, right? You know, you got to think this through. We kill a guy that was on a Netflix show that's a popular coach. They're going to come after us. They're catching whoever does it, right? Especially in broad daylight. So it's just, go ahead, Mindy. Sorry. I have so many things to say.
No, it's important what you're saying, and I'll just back that up. Just because there's two thoughts in my mind from what you're saying. Just back to city council, and then I want to go to Skyline High.
Oh, yeah. We don't want to forget. That's really important. Children were shot there, so that's terrible.
And the thing that with the city council, they would not only fund the police, they would change the city ordinances that stop our police from doing their job. They would take on even more effectively the police commission. Look, people have to understand, the police in this city are not free to do what they need to do. Not only do we not have enough of them, they're not free, which is why I'm calling on Trump to bring in the National Guard. And you're looking at a situation where literally right now, you have the police commission, you have federal oversight, you have the mayor. That's who the police chief has to answer to. That's, so it's like everything is done to build in not being able for the police to do their job. But in terms of equipment, I mean, there's a big fight now over whether they're going to have their flock cameras, which I support. And everything is done on the basis of saying that we need to, we can't be racist. People should recognize that argument is about as old and stale as it can be.
Yeah.
That's what they say. You can't, you're not being fair if you have police do their job.
Oh, everyone knows that. Yeah, it's just preposterous. Everyone knows that that's just liberal bullshit, honestly.
Yep, absolutely.
100%.
And so this is where, it comes down to some very fundamentals. Because if you look at this Coach John Beam and this kind of execution, and you look at the day before, this young kid in Skyline High School, which is in the better part of Oakland, it's in Oakland Hills. Can it be that, I'm not being conspiratorial, but
hey, this is the place to do it if you're going to be.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Shooting, and we still don't know anything about the school shooting in Skyline. Why did it happen? What were the kids doing? Did they know each other? And then the next day, this happens, and it's like almost hush hush about what's going on. And there's something very eerie about it. And I call on people of Oakland, don't be afraid. They'd love you to be afraid right now.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. This is the time to come out and absolutely, step forward, demand what this city needs. And this city council, and what you just mentioned about what Ken Houston did, this isn't about grabbing a headline. This is about, why don't you do your job instead of city council, Why? Because you have another interest. And the interest is not the children. And I want to say something about the children for a
Yeah.
moment. Because, and I hit this in my press release that I put out in a few days ago, which, which is that I called it, "Our children have a God-given right to a future." And, I know the job of mayor is not to be involved in education, the way the city structure is. I'm going to write a charter that changes that. Okay.
100%. That's why I love what you stand for. Is you stand for progressive change by somebody who's a conservative. You want to progress forward, not be a regression. They're not progressives, they're regressives. But
Yeah,
you're somebody that
exactly.
wants to change the status quo. And that
Yeah.
is just any change to the status quo in Oakland would be powerful because there's no change in the status quo. And the look, the 100% going forward, the issue for this next year will be Barbara Lee lies about crime on purpose.
Yep, she does. And she promotes the culture that
100%.
promotes the crime. All this anti-ICE nonsense.
It's nonsense.
All this stuff, and you should think about it. And I hope people help me reach out to people, because the way the enemy works, and I don't even just Barbara Lee, I mean higher than Barbara Lee, in
Oh yeah.
British intelligence, in the intelligence networks of the treasonous side of the radical Democrats, and even some Republicans for that matter, is they want you to fight on their terrain.
Mhm.
And we have to get our fellow citizens to learn to think very deeply, to be able to look outside of the box and think about, wait a minute, I'm being conditioned to accept this as normal. I'm being conditioned to be against Trump when I don't even know what Trump is doing. I'm being conditioned to say, I gotta love, transgender kids. Now, I'm not saying don't love a transgender child. The poor child is destroyed. But the idea that we would tolerate that being done to our children, and
Well, yeah,
think that's
it's
a
it's
normal thing to
it's
do.
disgusting abuse of children, and they masquerade in and try to paint this picture of it's some sort of a liberal tenet now, right?
And
It's
yeah,
wild stuff. And where you're going with this, and I love this, is the children, obviously. And I don't want to forget something. You were
sure.
talking about I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist because I liked where you were going. And for those that are joining us, Jason J. Daniels show, this is Mitty Petchenuk running for Oakland Mayor 2026. We're talking about the tragic murder of John Beam. You were mentioning they're shooting the day before, right?
Right.
And isn't that so? For people that are just watching the story, they're not realizing this is the second shooting on a campus was within 24 hours, gun violence, teenagers, and then this poor guy was murdered, John Beam. So where are you going with the conspiracy? Because I'm kind of jumping ahead with you, but I want to hear where you're going because I'm intrigued.
Well, because you think about, if you want to create a state of fear, a state of terror, a state of uncertainty, things like this sometimes are accidental, sometimes they're not. Why was two guns in the hands of juveniles in a school? I think it was, I'm not sure, I think it was in the bathroom or something. It wasn't in a classroom from what I read. And how did two young children, and they're children, high school, you're still a child, and bring two handguns into the school, and because we don't know anything about it, did they know the victim that they shot, the other student? Was it random? Was it over some fight they had? But how did this gun get in the school? Nobody's asked that question.
Yeah, and
And
now they're moving on to this. Now this media is moving past that because it was a story. Now it's
Yeah.
like John Beam is the story.
Now, yeah, and this is tragic in both cases.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that the very next day, not even maybe 24 hours later,
Yeah, not even 24 hours.
that Coach Beam was shot in the head on Laney campus. Now
A
again,
high profile execution in broad daylight.
yeah, and
On a
this
school, like all the most scariest thing you would not want to happen on a campus.
right, of somebody of that stature, somebody who's very well known,
Apparently well loved.
well loved.
And so
You
you
know,
go,
Bill-
we'll get to the motive, but you're like that, not to sidebar, but like, what would be the motive, right? To somebody being
what
that,
would be
right?
the
To kill,
motive?
right?
Somebody
It's very
was-
personal or very, a message.
Did this guy just stumble into the field house?
It
With a
happened to
gun?
decide to let me just walk up to this person, right?
Yeah,
The details are real sketchy, but we'll get into, so more people are joining us. So thank you guys for watching Jason J. Daniels show. I have Mindy Petchnik with me, candidate for Oakland mayor, and she's the perfect person to have on with me to discuss this breaking story of John Beam, dying after being shot yesterday. She's the only one in Oakland talking about crime, other than there's activists now, Seneca and certain activists that we're not leaving you guys out. We love you guys. There are people that are actively every day talking about this. And Seneca is kind of like the Nostradamus, right? He's always like, this is going to happen. And it does. And you have a little Nostradamus blood in you too, because you're always able to predict this stuff. But it's kind of easy to predict when you've got crime running wild, a crime syndicate. You've got the Chinese Chi-Coms creating fentanyl over in Oakland, getting ready to ship. Got the cartels funding that. You've got so much chaos, and then you have a mayor who's doing this all day.
yeah, and you have to say to yourself, why hasn't
Easy math.
If I were mayor, I would have reached out to the federal government of Donald Trump and said, we need some help here. We need the DOJ in here. We need the FBI in here. We need the National Guard. We have to go after the drug cartels. We have to go after the fentanyl in the streets of Oakland. I made this point, over and over again. This is a death cult.
100%.
Whether you're shot with fentanyl or cocaine or what it may be, or another form of killing is menticide. And that's what we've done to our children. I just want to touch on those who are just coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you didn't have a lot of illegals running around, if you didn't have the gangs in Oakland are very strong. And I'm still learning more about them, but they're very strong. And you have a lot. And why are young people in gangs? Because we've destroyed their minds. If you destroy a mind, you destroy morality. Most people don't understand that. Because what governs morality is your ability to know what it is to be in the image of God, to know what the principles of life in the universe are, and that we have a mission for the short time we're on earth to actually use that mind to achieve a better generation than came before.
Now, Mindy, let me jump in. Since you mentioned gangs, do you think this could be related to the gangs, the way that John was shot?
It could be. I don't know. I don't know enough because no information has been given out.
Yeah, I just, when you said that, it occurred to me. I'm like, man, that sounds like gang violence to me.
It could be. There's many different kinds of gangs. There are the gangs that do the more violent stuff. There's the gangs that do the robberies. There's a part of the gangs that do the drugs.
Yeah.
So
one last thing, you mentioned the death cult, and this occurred to me. It's so true. In fact, Democrats get more famous when you die. When people die, Democrats get famous. They get out there, do the press conferences. Now, Barbara Lee, her name is she's already famous, but her name is in all the media. Look at John. Ken Houston. John died. Ken Houston, council person. He's in the New York Times this morning because John was shot. They love getting publicity when you die.
Yeah, no,
When
because
you're alive,
that's
they don't care about you, but when you get murdered in a tragic way, they're talking to the New York Times about you.
yep,
That's
no,
what
and that
Democrats
instead of
do.
doing what they should be doing, which is they could
Yeah.
change the ordinances of the city, they could actually, you know, talk to the school boards about changing our education. You realize that, and I put this in my statement that I put out yesterday. This was even before I put my statement out before Coach Beam was shot.
Yeah, you were so
Yeah.
on top of it, which is you're so on top of stuff. I'm trying to catch up. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, wow, this is a great thing. I knew we'd talk. It's so funny because we were going to talk about gun violence in the schools. That's what we were going to talk about.
Right.
And like,
And
you know, I'm thinking a few days, maybe next week. And then this happened. I'm like, wow, like you're on top of it.
yeah, see, and this is what people have to see. There's things, measures we can do to stop the crime, but we have to do something else in addition, which is we have to get our fellow Oaklanders, in this case, more willing to not go along to get along, to
Yeah.
not go say, well, I'm a Democrat. You know, tell you the truth, I used to be a Democrat.
Me too.
Most
Well,
of
I was leaning that way, but not full,
I,
but I was,
was
yeah.
came from a FDR, JFK Democratic family.
Yeah.
And then that was a different Democratic Party. And as I always say, the Democratic Party left me.
100%.
And Donald Trump recruited me.
Well, I'll tell you this. Remember, you know, the whole Trump's the devil and everybody's calling Trump, don't come out here. Don't come here. Don't help. Like that was weird. Like, why are you you're so bad you don't want any help from the Fed. And then, somehow they talked Trump off the ledge, which blew me away. But I'll just say this. If the National Guard had showed up, the question is, maybe John Beam would be alive. I don't think that's an unrealistic thing to speculate.
I think that's very, very true.
If I was his family, I'd be so freaking pissed off at Barbara Lee and Daniel Laurie and all these jackasses, I said it, that didn't want crime to be tamped down. And so all we see is crimes down. But every day there's something telling us crime's not down. It's only getting more vicious.
Exactly.
Exactly. We're not dumb. Barbara Lee, we're not dumb. Come on, it's over. The scam is over. We're not stupid. We understand. There's a reason you don't want gangs to get busted.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing you got to conclude, because I know, as somebody who's been political 50 years of my life, that if you want to get something done and you're in a position to do it, it's not an easy path. I'm not saying it's easy. Yeah, because it's so ingrained. But there are things you can do that actually transform. So you have to ask yourself, why isn't it getting done? Why do we have cartels, drug cartels in California, all over California? I was just reading an article this morning in another county where it's infested with drug cartels and illegal marijuana grows. This is all over California.
All over.
We have at least 50 cannabis warehouses, illegal cannabis warehouses in Oakland.
Look, I keep saying they're this council and Barbara Lee, they are the criminal's choice. If I was a crime boss, I'd be like, hey, they're shooting famous people in the head and it's all good. I'm moving my Operation Oakland because clearly we can go right to San Francisco and wreak chaos. It's crazy. Now, Cedric is the guy. We'll talk about him. Let's get into the details. Not that this hasn't been fantastic. It's we just, we want to help those that are joining late because it's such a fast story and it's complicated, but yet there's no details. It's so crazy. They're purposely holding back details. And in fact, yesterday they talked about shot in the head. Now the articles today, they're all taking that out and revising it, which is weird.
What are they saying now?
They're just saying shot. they're saying gravely wounded. But yesterday it was they were reporting. So I had to go back in the Internet Archives because there's a way you can go back in your browser. And I found yesterday's stories that said shot in the head. Because when I was creating my graphics, I'm like, wait a second, am I mishearing this? And no, I verified it. But you see how there's something just the media and politicians like Barbara Lee, they're all in collusion, right? There's something that they're hiding. Now this story, so let me take a drink here.
Sure.
Sorry. Mindy, introduce yourself really quick for those that are joining because our numbers are growing.
Hi, I'm Mindy Petchenuk, and I'm running for Oakland mayor in 2026. And I'm here because I'm tough on crime. I'm also tough on development and tough on education. And if we don't change leadership, Oakland will never get out of this crisis. We keep voting for the same variety, and when it's like if you have a garden and you keep planting the same plant in the same spot and it keeps dying, you should say there's something wrong with the soil here.
Except this garden, you're going to die. the planter's dying. Oh my God. It's not a laughing matter, but I'm trying to bring
you get it.
I'm trying to be facetious to prove a point. So thank you, Minnie, for joining me. You are the choice of Jason, and you're a crime fighter, and you're the only candidate who's been on six Oakland police rides? 6?
Yeah, at least 6 Oakland police rides.
You
And I
get
would
in
have
the car and go out with them. Nobody else does that.
And I would be doing more, but they changed the policy. We can only ride once every 6 months.
Because you're probably trying to get out to fight. You're like, stop, get in, fight crime. Stay in the car. Okay, so guys, thanks for joining us. I'm Jason G. Daniel. You don't care about me. You care about her. Mindy's the star here. Okay, so let's get into the story. Unfortunately, there's a coach, and there was a coach. God rest his soul. Rest in peace. John Beam, 66 years old. He was working at Laney College, and he has a storied history in high school and college football. He's mentored, I guess, 1,000 really good players, and they've gone on to play well in college football and NFL. So somehow he has some sort of gravitas, and he was invited to go on a Netflix show. So you might know more about him than me. In fact, I didn't know who he was until yesterday because, so he's more famous, right, than I realized. There's a Netflix show called Last Chance U, and I never watched it because I'm not interested in show. I love sports. I watch every documentary, but I'm not interested in stories where it's a guy who's being, has to mentor all these like bad news bears. Like that's a story. It's kind of boring to me. Right. So I never watched the show, but apparently he was on season 5, I guess. And so I guess they focus on one coach. Right. So and I'm not trying to disrespect how good he was or anything. I just didn't pay attention to it. And also I don't think coaches are the story really in sports. So I tend to, shy away from stories that make coaches bigger than life because, it's really about the players. So he had retired from actually actively coaching something like 4 or 5 years ago, and I guess he's working for Laney College. And where is that at in Oakland, Mindy?
Laney College is close to downtown Oakland, and it's right in the heart of where Chinatown is. It's not far from where I live.
Gotcha. So it's popping over there, and he's popular, well known. So yesterday, on the heels of a shooting that happened at a high school across town, you were saying, Skyline is the name?
It's Skyline High. It's in Oakland Hills. That's the better part of Oakland.
Right. So a little more affluent, you could say. And so there were teenagers somebody shot, and there's 2 teenagers shot another teenager. That teenager survived, but that was the thing. That's a big deal. Big enough, right? Scary.
He's still in the hospital, I believe.
Yeah, still. So that story hadn't even cooled down, and boom, I guess a man in a black hoodie, they're describing, walked onto the campus of Laney during the day, like noon or something yesterday, walked up to John Beam, last chance coach and a legend, and shoots him in the head to execute him. He goes down. He's gravely injured. The suspect walked off. He didn't even run, they're saying. He just walked off. So clearly he didn't mind being seen. And they found him pretty quick. So they got him overnight. So he was in the hospital. John wasn't doing well, unfortunately, in critical condition. And then the manhunt was on. So this morning, they caught the gentleman that I guess that's a terrible word, but innocent until proven guilty. Caught the guy. He's not a gentleman if he did it. Caught the guy. We're trying to be respectful. Caught the guy who allegedly shot John, and then John passed away right around the same time they caught the killer. So this is a big story. ESPN, clearly, he was a TV guy. It's a big story. There's a lot of layers to it. And I'll say this. One, if you go on TV and you're on a streamer, you might be more notorious than you realize. It's more of a dangerous world right now, especially if you start partaking in shows where there's millions of viewers. Also, sports is a really edgy business. There's gambling involved. There's a lot of dark stuff that can be involved. Also, people like him at a certain level, maybe some people he had enemies, right? This is what the police are going to go through. Maybe he did break some eggs to get up where he's at. Who knows? Maybe he made somebody mad because he told them that they were a washout, or maybe he was involved in some sort of discipline or something. But you just don't accidentally get shot in the head in that kind of a situation when you're doing your job and somebody actively seeks you out. Right. I could see maybe a carjacking or something unfortunate like that, but this did not seem random. So let's go to Mindy. Am I missing anything? I mean, your boots on the ground there before we jump to the
No, that's about what we know and don't know. We just don't know a lot because there's been a lot said either about the Skyline shooting, which may be because one thing I could think of is that they are juveniles. So there's maybe certain protection because they are, just high school students. But on Coach Beam, not a lot of details have been out, and I hope soon we get some answers. And if this Cedric was his name, if that's the killer, then I'd love to see a background on who he really is.
Yeah, and we are speculating he probably has a rap sheet because you just don't. Your first crime, hey, go kill this famous guy in broad daylight with a gun. Hey, great idea. Nobody thinks that's going to be a great first crime. So unless you're a low IQ guy, or gal, it's Cedric Irving Jr. So interesting. You see right there on the screen, that's breaking. Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee is going to make a public safety announcement. Oh, I feel safer already. Mindy, you feel safer? This is what they do. We told you. You get killed and they get famous. Why do you vote? Not, you, Mindy, but why do people vote for these Democrats who just want you hurt so they can continue to get elected? I don't get it. I'm sorry. It makes me crazy. And I'll tell you a group of people that are probably on my side, John's family, because you know how crass this is to do a press conference the same day. It's super cringy. It's not, it's not, if you're going to do a press conference, you're going to say, out of respect for the family, we're going to talk about this tomorrow. He just died this morning. The whole thing's just a tragedy. But instead, she has to do an announcement on safety. What? No one's safe. What are you going to announce? I failed? That would be a great one. How are you safe today if famous people are getting killed in Oakland? Like, that's usually the line, right? People that aren't famous, we don't care, right? Democrats. But if a famous person dies, oh, let's get votes. I'm sorry. I'm just so jaded. So here's what Fox 2 is saying. They arrested somebody. This is late news. They arrested a guy named Cedric. We'll get into that. They've arrested the subject. Laney College shooting. Here's some details. Okay, he was shot before noon. We got that right. Near Laney Fieldhouse. That building is adjacent to the football field. It's housed the school's athletic facilities. That's where Beam worked. Okay, here it is. The source, it's probably Ken, the council person, who can't stop talking to the New York Times. He said a source identified the suspect. You notice it's not the police, so this leaked. Interesting, right? All the details are keeping like under wraps, but the name of the guy leaked really fast. Cedric Irving Jr., 27, who was spotted before dawn on Friday by Alameda County Sheriff's detectives at the BART station, conspicuously carrying 2 duffel bags. Interesting. So they probably had been tracking him on video for a while, and then, he gets to the BART and, they get him. That's interesting. So we got 2 mysterious duffel bags. Okay, there's another mystery.
Read the next sentence.
What's that?
Read the next sentence. The San Francisco Chronicle reached Irving's brother, Samuel Irving, who said Cedric played football at Skyline.
Wait. Skyline. Wait a second. Mindy, your conspiracy might be right. Your conspiracy theory. Wow.
After Beam's time there. So Beam actually taught, it looks like, at Skyline. And then at Laney. I hoped it wasn't him, his brother said. Cedric, I knew, wasn't capable of murder. He told the Chronicle that his brother had excelled academically and athletically in high school, where he ran track and played football, but grew distant from the family in recent years.
Wow, this has a lot of detail about him.
Yeah,
wow.
Irving had worked as a security guard, but lost his job after the altercation. His brother told the Chronicle. He was evicted from his apartment.
So that's interesting. Okay, so his brother's talking to the police about him. Okay. I feel like, stop talking. The family should not be, they're speaking for him. So Oakland police said the suspect fled the scene wearing a dark colored clothing. Any motive for the shooting has not been disclosed. And Barbara Lee said, thanks, cops. So isn't that interesting? So for those that are joining us late, our numbers are growing. Mindy, explain the connection with Skyline for those that are not aware. There was a shooting the day before.
Yeah, the day before at Skyline High School in Oakland. It's in Oakland Hills. 3 young students at the high school. The details are very unclear, but one of the 3 youth were shot. He's in the hospital, and you had 2 guns that were found at the scene. So it's just kind of eerie. The one day when you're just dealing and grappling with what happened at Skyline, and then the next thing where you're dealing and grappling, then you hear the news that Coach Beam was shot, and now, as we know, that he has passed away. So, and the way the city is handling it, I mean, I just want to say one thing. I want to send my prayers to the family of Coach Beam, and also my prayers to the family of the young student that was shot.
Yeah.
And it just should be a wake-up call to all of us, whether you live in Oakland or you don't live in Oakland. We have got to take this moment and actually say to ourselves, I'm not going to sit here as a spectator. I'm going to say to myself, this is now my responsibility to be more politically involved. And Jason, I hate to do this, but I have to let my dog out the back. Can you give me a second? Okay.
Do your doggy work, and I will continue. We'll talk about Channel 7 and what they said. Yeah, what Mindy's saying is so true. You have to get involved if you're an Oakland citizen. If you're an Oakland citizen and you're listening to me, and you're sitting here, or you're sitting there listening to Mindy and I talk, and you need to understand that everybody in Oakland has to do something different. One of the things you have to do differently, easy math for me, is you have to deselect these radical liberals. You have to. There's no way that you're going to progress with the majority of your city council infested by these corrupt opportunists. One of the things that still blows my mind is, after the scandals in City Hall, there was a racism scandal that was covered up. There was a there was, as far as it was dealt with, but it wasn't talked about in the media like it should have been. And then obviously Sheng Tao is looking at 100 years in Club Fed. When that went down with the bribery scandal, they should have routed City Hall out and just the DOJ, it should have been a shakedown.
Exactly.
But they didn't do it. A lot of it was because the Biden administration was in charge, but they didn't shake it down. Because what happens is the more Democrats you shake out of the corruption tree, the more they grab and they all come down because they eat their own. The one thing you know about the Democrats is they will cannibalize each other. So they don't. So they only take one off the line at a time when there's corruption. Because imagine if everybody was indicted in City Hall, there you couldn't run the government, right? The crisis is that bad that if everybody stepped down or if they were indicted for the stuff that was going on in Oakland, you wouldn't have anybody to run it. And it's just, and plus the city pays for all of that. Unfortunately, people don't realize when you're in office and you're indicted, you get lawyers paid for by the city. You don't have to come out of pocket unless there's certain circumstances where the city can back away from it, but then they'd have to litigate against you. So these people, when they get in, you vote them in, you're like, oh, whatever. Or the judges in San Francisco, that's another fiasco. You vote whatever, you don't care. It's impossible to get them out. It's impossible. You have to write it out, and they can do so much damage. So yes, people have to, Oakland, if you're hearing me, hearing Mindy, you have to first, don't elect any more liberal radicals. Even if you're not a conservative, you have to take a stand. No more of that. And two, there has to be an active effort to hold the current administration accountable for these deaths. Now, when ICE, what was ICE doing at the port? They were showing up and doing something. And then there was everybody just starts attacking the Coast Guard. Is that what it was in Oakland?
It was the entrance to the Coast Guard building, yeah.
Yeah, so how about this? A very famous guy who helped thousands of children in Oakland is shot in the head. No protests about that. Nobody rising up about that. Nobody writing signs saying, why aren't we safer? Stop the murders. No. Everybody just sits at home and watches it on their screen and waits for the next one. Does that sound dark? It sounds like what we're dealing with to me.
You're right. And this is where, we have to say to ourselves, everyone, God put you on earth for a reason, and it's to do the good and not to be a spectator.
Yeah.
And I call people to join my campaign, join Jason, join with us, because right now the enemy is actually in a weak position. They're not doing anything from strength. They're doing it from weakness, and it's just reaching and having that conversation with somebody you don't know or somebody that you know. We have to reach into the two things in Oakland. I just want to stress on the solution side, like you're talking, Jason.
Yeah, go ahead.
One is that we have to unite. Now, I know that's an overly used word. I don't particularly like it. I wish I could find a better word. But, the Republicans in Oakland, and there's about 10,000 of them, need to come out and work with me. Secondly, the Democrats who can't stand the radical Democrats, I don't like to call them progressives, radical Democrats.
No, they're not. They're regressives. That's a bullshit line. Yeah, that's subterfuge.
A lot of Democrats don't like Barbara Lee. They don't like Carol Fife. They don't like, this apparatus. But if they don't work with me, if we don't come together and actually work for the benefit of the city, and I say to anybody who really has a problem, and I'll be honest, I know some people say, I like what you have to say, I like what you do, but you got, as you can see, Donald Trump over there.
Yeah, you like the president too much. I mean, how crazy is that? That people you support the president, whoever the president might be, and they hold that against you. It's preposterous brainwashing.
It is. And I say, let's have the conversation. Let's talk about what you think Donald Trump is doing that's so bad or makes him a bad man. When he wants to shut down, look what he's doing to shut down fentanyl. He's now working, he just had Kash Patel over in China working to shut down the fentanyl precursors from coming into the United States. He's closed our border so that the drugs and criminals don't come in. My grandparents came into this country. I'm only a second generation American. And my grandparents came from outside of Kiev, and they came to Ellis Island and they legally came into the country. And that's how you do it. You don't open your borders. So Trump closes the borders to stop the drugs, to stop the criminals. He's cleaning up the criminals. And he's really going after the drug cartels. I have
100%.
never, ever
100%.
in my lifetime, and I'm going to be 74 next month. And, never in my lifetime have I seen a president who's really gone after the drugs the right way. Not saying, oh, let's hold hands and say, oh, let me give you drugs so you can, do it in a building instead of on the street.
Let's have Snoop Dogg do a concert against drugs. Yeah, that's their way of fighting drugs.
Exactly.
NBC, let's put a guy that got off. I don't know. I'm getting off on Snoop Dogg, but let's just put really reprehensible people, on TV under the Biden administration, right? It's just the whole thing is a scam, because.
So tell me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the reason why they don't care is there's too many people now. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many people they just don't care if people die. They don't. That's I'm not saying there's too many people. I'm saying that's how they look at it. They don't care. You're just a blip on the radar.
They want depopulation.
100%. People don't realize it.
That's their agenda. And this goes back. This goes back to, you can go back to prior to World War II and World War I. Hitler didn't design his own policies. He got that from the Harriman family, the Bush family, the Bank of England. They were very instrumental in putting Hitler into power. And eugenics, I didn't think I was going to go there on this, but eugenics.
Mindy, you're able to go anywhere. That's the one thing I've learned about. Well, it's a lot of people don't even really think it through that the Democrat Party, if you trace it back to all these roots. I mean, how about JFK's his dad, right? The dad JFK, wasn't he the guy that was like Hitler's not a problem?
Yeah, and his father was the ambassador to England, and FDR couldn't stand his father and actually pulled him back at one point.
Yeah, because he's screwed things up so bad.
Yeah. Because eugenics, it was a policy. They don't call it that today. They give it different names. But eugenics, in fact, in the Harriman banking family out of New York, ran the Eugenics Society in New York. In fact, talk about the New York Times. The New York Times back then, I think this was in the 1940s, had an article. Harriman family has eugenics, plans, and goes through the whole thing. And that's where eugenics comes from.
And they're all the people that founded Planned Parenthood, right? They were big.
That's part of it.
Right?
That was part of eugenics.
So,
part of the eugenics was, telling people get the drug trade. Part of the eugenics was creating and worshiping the idea that the family unit of one man, one woman, together having children, having a family, having one person work in the family so you could stay home with the others and raise the kids. Once you broke that down, and I can speak to it personally because partially my age, I lived through the 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s. I have to say, as a young person, you get caught up in some of it. You don't know what it is, but looking back.
Are we going to get the secrets, Mindy? You're going to tell us all the secrets from the 70s?
Don't get me. I can go there,
I got
but
secrets from the '90s, so we could.
okay, there you
We could
go.
but
You
yeah,
see,
we've got
they had to
everybody's
destroy
got
my
their secret.
generation so then they could pass it on to you, and it's gotten a lot worse today. It's at its end game. But this is why they killed JFK. This is why they killed Bobby. This is why they killed Malcolm. This is why they assassinated Martin Luther King. This is why they created the Vietnam War. This is why they created the drug trafficking back in the 60s.
It's
You
so
know,
true. Our government has been involved in very nefarious things. And I'll say this, people just joining, Mindy, she's hip. She knows Oakland. She knows the history. You know, and Oakland's a real you'd be surprised when you talk to Mindy, like how deep she is on the lore of Oakland. And Oakland is the other part of it, and we'll go here and segue back to John by saying Oakland is so iconic, right? It's one of the most iconic cities in the world.
it's
Oakland A's, remember with the Bash Brothers? Remember when that was a huge thing? It was all about Oakland, right? And you had the big stars and then the World Series, the big earthquake. Oakland was in the world, right? The A's, Oakland Raiders, legendary. You have musicians, incredible. And then you even, and Oakland still has celebrities. MC Hammer, everybody shout out to him. He's still doing his thing on Twitter. You know, there's just so many amazing artists that came out of the Bay in Oakland, and hip hop, they say, you know, came out of Oakland as well as East Coast. But breaking it down to today is you even have John Beam. He's a modern day celebrity on Netflix. He's a celebrity. Looking at the news today, you cannot doubt he has had celebrity. And they're even now killing the celebrities. It was let's kill commerce, let's kill the sporting industry, let's kill Oakland's. Now Oakland's just a laughing stock. Now they're actually killing the celebrities. Like if I was somebody that was living in Oakland that had some sort of visibility like this on TV, I would not. I'd have my head on a swivel. But one of the things that I want to go back to is Skyline, the high school.
right.
So for people that are just joining us, we just found a connection. Now we didn't find it, but it's interesting. There's a connection to the shooting the day before at a high school and John Beam and the suspect. Skyline High School. John Beam was a coach there. Cedric Irving Jr., the alleged killer, was a student there after John was a coach, right? And so there's not a correlation they can connect with them crossing paths, but there was a shooting at Skyline, 3 teenagers involved, one was injured, still in the hospital, and then the next day, a ex-student of Skyline executes John Beam, who had coached at Skyline. Intriguing. So if I was investigating, I'd be interviewing those kids. And you said something that really stood out to me. For those of us watching, my name is Jason J. Daniel. Jason J. Daniel Show. This is Mindy Petchnik. She's running for Oakland mayor. Whoops, I crossed my my graphics. This is Mindy. Follow her at electmindy.com. Mindy for Oakland, I think, on X. And I should know that. And I am, just for you guys, I have too many graphics here. I'm Jason J. Daniel on Jason J. Daniel Show. Thank you. So, and also we'd like to ask you guys not only to follow Mindy and me, but please subscribe to us. We both have YouTube channels and we work together. Follow us for sure. Let's go to Cedric Irving. So Cedric Irving has been arrested this morning. Cedric Irving Jr. His brother's already talking to the media and gave that information concerning him being at the connection with Skyline. So Mindy, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think there might be some kind of connection that's a little deeper than just random?
If I was an investigator, I would check out a couple of things. One, which is, when was John Beam a coach at Skyline? Was Cedric, I'm not clear to me whether he was at the school at the same time or not. That I'm not clear on, but it'd be interesting if he was at the school at the same time.
Yeah.
because then you could see a developing motive. Now, I'm not saying I don't know the facts, so I can't say, but if he was, there could be a motive as to, um, you know, why he would carry this out now with some grudge that he had
Yeah,
against Coach Beam.
bingo,
I
right? Motive. What is the motive? That's
Yeah,
why.
I don't know. I'm just, hypothesizing a few possibilities. The fact that there was a shooting the day before at Skyline, it's just very odd. Let me put it that way. I'm
Yeah,
not a,
two
you know, it,
shootings at two schools, and the
yeah,
suspect has a connection because of the
yeah,
schools. That
yeah,
is
yeah,
wild.
yep, isn't that? So it just raises in my mind a lot of questions, that are, hold on a second. I just got to,
No worries. And I'll start to read this article and then we'll wrap.
I'm back. I'm back. Sorry, I had
Okay,
to get
great. So News
the door
7,
open.
they are saying that it says they learned that the not from the police, they probably learned from Houston, who couldn't stay off the phone talking to every news outlet, the city council guy who had no business leaking this. Anyway, so he apparently is the herald of bad news. Weird, right? So excited.
Mhm.
Loved ones remember Beam as a larger-than-life personality that helped countless athletes turn their lives around and was a pillar in Oakland. So I just have to say this: everything I'm reading is painting him as some fantastic guy. I'm not seeing how he had enemies. Now they could be pouring it on, and I suppose if I passed away, I'd want them to pour it on too. So,
Yeah.
in a good way. But so far, no one has come out on social media. You know how it is. People will tell you the truth. So Beam is unfortunately, he had two daughters and granddaughters. So sad. He was 66. He was featured in Netflix Last Chance U in 2020. So that was 5 years ago, almost six. And he's still well known, right, from it. Because you can watch it all the time, right? I haven't watched it yet. I will definitely now watch the episode. I'm intrigued, or watch the. Guess he was on one
Serious.
of the seasons. Yeah. So he's a football legend in the Bay Area. Now I know football very well. I'm not a high school football guy, so I wouldn't know him. I follow college really well. He's not anyone that was on my radar, this is all new to me. He coached for 40 years and then became the athletic director last year, where he died. He was 66. Authorities confirmed that a 27-year-old suspect was taken into custody on Friday around 3 a.m. So they got him sooner. They announced it later. The news broke at around, I think, 9 or something today, Pacific, and he was in possession of a gun. How convenient. That's just what? Usually you get rid of the weapon, right? That's weird to me. Maybe it was a different gun. I mean, I suppose you're carrying a gun if you're like, okay, if you're ready for a shootout or something. I get that, but he was at BART, just like no one's going to catch me. It's weird to me. So there's John, and apparently this is obviously the spot. So it looks like it happened outside, which would make sense.
Okay.
He was declared deceased at 10 a.m. So the news broke at around noon. That's when it hit. Because I was researching this podcast, I was refreshing the news, and boom, it came up. So they held back. I think they announced at the press conference. Okay, here we go. Now we're talking, Mindy. Now we're talking. Look at
Okay.
this. This was a very targeted incident.
Okay, there you go.
In the press conference. That makes it was an assassination.
That's what you'd have to assume.
Yeah. Adding that the suspect and oh my God, they knew each other. Wow.
Okay.
Okay, that's new. That's new. They knew each other. Wow. Okay, although they weren't close, there's a connection. Okay, so now we do know they knew each other. We know that they have a connection with Skyline High School, and there was a shooting the day before at Skyline. I wonder, because we don't have details since it was juveniles. I wonder how that went down, if it was similar.
Yeah.
A very targeted incident leads me to believe that the guy probably said, "This is why I did it," and they're holding back on releasing it.
Yeah.
Now, maybe,
You were right. you were right, Jason. It says he was at Skyline, Cedric, but not when Beam worked there. Hmm?
Yeah, there
He
was
was
a
there.
like a difference in the time frame, but
Yes.
somehow they still knew each other. Now, I will say
Yeah.
this: a guy like that. Now I've known high school football coaches. In fact, I knew a really famous one in Northern California. And the coaches that are the guy, there's always like the guy, right? The daddy, the papa coach, right? And all the other high school coaches, kind of like it's the pyramid of fame in these towns. Um, they know all the kids. That's the thing. All the the kids that are involved in football, especially if they play well, they're heavily scouted by these guys. It's a network. They all know each other. So I don't want to draw too much into that, but somehow that is related. I mean, he knew him. It wasn't just a random shooting. So Beer, I guess that's the police spokesperson, did not elaborate on how they knew each other or why the suspect was on the campus, saying the suspect played football at Skyline. Okay, so he was a football guy at Skyline. Um, and but not when Beam worked there. Suspect was taken into custody by altercation, and a gun has been recovered. Police say the suspect was not a college student, but was known to loiter on campus. Interesting. Okay, the plot is thickening.
Yes.
Piedmont Police Chief, which is a different city, but Bay, Chief Frederick called the coach an absolutely incredible human being. That's just so sad. Our heart is aching, he said. The shooting happened at noon. Maybe Piedmont is where they got him on the BART. I
No,
guess.
no, they got him in San Leandro. Piedmont is a separate city, but it's right embedded into next to Oakland.
Gotcha.
It's
So, okay.
a funny kind of geometry, but it's a separate city from Oakland, but it's right enclosed in the area.
Yeah.
They got him
Okay,
in
that makes sense.
which is another city, which is further away.
Yes. Okay. So they were helping out each other. College. Here's a picture of him looking very coach-like. Netflix screen capture. The college was placed on lockdown. Of course, campus was closed, but was open today, Friday. Oakland police responded to crimes at Laney College. This is interesting, but daily security is provided by guards that are not armed. Head of public safety at the community college district last month proposed creating an in-house security team that would be armed. That's interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So so this goes on to have some interviews. People are stunned by it. I was shocked. Let's see here. And active investigation, and they're saying good things about him. So we're gonna wrap, Mindy. Wow, hour and 17. Thank you for your time. I'm up
Thank you,
against
Jason.
a deadline, but we'll wrap this up by so for guys and gals that are joining us, John Beam, there's a lot of folks watching, so thank you guys. We see you on X, and thank you for watching on Rumble. John Beam was murdered by apparently a guy he knew who would loiter on campus dressed in black, walked up around noon, a little before noon, shot him in the head outside of the building. I guess John worked. He was not actively coaching. He was retired, but he was like the guy, right? Very famous on campus, famous Oakland sports icon. Everybody loved him. The day before, there was a shooting at Skyline High School, the high school that John used to coach at years ago, and a high school that the suspect went to after the police established that the suspect knew John. Cedric Irving Jr. is the name of the suspect. Innocent until proven guilty. Just the facts, no judgment on this show. Unless you earn the judgment, then we'll give it to you. But at this point, we just have facts. He was arrested 3 a.m. at the BART station, had the gun or a gun, had a gun on him. Interesting stuff. Looked like he wasn't trying to hide. And I'm sure they got him on video. There's video everywhere. Oh, one of the things I want to ask you before we go, Mindy, is they're saying that there's security, but security's unarmed. And earlier before in the reporting, it says that the security head was like, maybe we need some guns here. Maybe we need some guns here. What's your feeling about arming security on campuses at schools in Oakland?
I'm for it. You know, there's got to be a certain line that you establish and say that the criminals know, or that this is not a free lunch. There are going to be consequences for your actions. And so I don't buy the liberal argument that it's going to create more problems or it's going to scare people. No, we need to have armed security. And as I said earlier, we need to bring the National Guard into Oakland to really clean house and get to the root of the problem. You know, you're not going to get to the root of it by just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit more, lipstick on the pig. It's not going to work. And if
Yeah.
anybody, and so I'm for it. Look, we got to put an end to this kind of violence, this kind of destruction of life, and create a different culture, a human culture. Because as you said earlier, and I'll just end with this, that Oakland used to be a fantastic city. From what I didn't grow up in Oakland. Okay, I'm a newbie here to Oakland. I came here in 2015, roughly, and so
Still a long time.
yeah. But
10 years.
I've done a lot of history, looking into the history of Oakland, and this was a fantastic developed city. I mean, you wouldn't believe how clean. And you look at the pictures, you get them off of the internet. Families look like real families. You would think you're in the Midwest. You know, the neighborhoods were growing and prosperous. You had industry everywhere, and factories and people having real community. And this city was deliberately targeted in a takedown. I think it's like a living experiment for these radical globalists to see how far you can push a city. And I call on everybody listening, I call on my fellow Oaklanders, don't participate in the experiment anymore.
Yeah.
You deserve better, but you're going to have to fight with it. And that means working with my campaign and working with Jason.
Yeah, it's over for the bullshit, voting for just the same old Democrats in Oakland. It has to be over because it hasn't worked and it has been a terrible experiment. And all the things we talked about, how multicultural and how vibrant and the arts and everything, it's gone now. Now, I'm sure there's a vibrant Oakland small underground arts community scene, but we don't talk about that. All they talk about is fighting Trump. We're talking about letting, fentanyl zombies just die out on the streets. We're talking about Gavin Newsom's, lunatic control and dictatorship over California. That's all we talk about in the media. We don't talk about anything positive about Oakland. It's all negative propaganda. And people need to realize you're getting propaganda every day from these outlets and from these politicians. I'm hoping that unfortunately, rest in peace, John Beam. I'm hoping this changes something because the news is everywhere. Like you put John Beam in Google, it's out of control. It's everybody's talking about it. It's international news now because that's how news travels. Will Oakland take the hit for this? I think they should. I think that Barbara Lee and the Oakland City Council need to be completely held accountable for the nasty violence and their just ridiculous lies about the crime rate. There have been more murders probably in the short amount of time since they started announcing crime is down than probably in a short stretch than they've had in years. Because when Democrats protect criminals, crime goes up.
That's right.
And when you're talking about it and you're not arresting people, that's the dog whistle. Well, we're going to come and get you sometime, maybe. And that's what you're going to get today from Barbara Lee, a bogus press conference, which I don't know when that's going to happen, but just about how it's Donald Trump. She's going to blame Donald Trump somehow, which nuts to me. When Gavin's not to get it, but when Gavin's crime mama got arrested a day or so ago, the statement they put out is it's Trump's fault because they're cleaning house. That's what they said.
I know.
Yeah, he said it's unfortunate at the very end, but because the DOJ is going after Trump's enemies, what? So a criminal that works with Gavin Newsom stealing $250,000, actually he stole $1 million, is this crime syndicate around Gavin Newsom. It's not their fault. It's Donald Trump's fault that they're crooks. It's Donald Trump's fault they got caught. That's essentially what Gavin said. People need to wake up, and you're having all sorts of scandals. You're getting robbed blind in California, not even to talk about the energy crisis. And now a poor man, this poor guy, not a poor man, but this poor guy was killed for hopefully he wasn't doing anything nefarious, but for apparently no reason. I don't know what would deserve. There's nothing you can do to deserve that kind of crime on your family or on you. But in Oakland, that's just the way you enforce. So we'll wrap up, and I appreciate you so much, Mindy. And I want to
appreciate you too, Jason.
yeah, thank you for impromptu doing a long show with me. I will say this and giving your time, I do not pay my guests honorariums yet because we're not at that level, but maybe one day. But Mindy's doing this of her own time and energy, and she is just a powerhouse. Last thing I'll say, there are people in Oakland with voices who, and I love everybody that I see in Oakland with their voice. I love the voices. Everybody's talking. But there's this sense that we want change, but not Republicans. We can't do that. Somebody that likes Trump, right? Get out of your own self here and just stop. Everybody needs to stop and realize it's kind of hypocritical to preach change all day, but not do change.
Right.
And so what I'm trying to tell people, I'm being very clear about this. You keep voting for Democrats and Democrats and Democrats. There's no conservative in the government at all, which is an abomination for democracy, by the way, to have a supermajority one party. And then anybody that actually comes in third, you don't support, or basically second. Well, I guess third because Lauren Law. You don't support that candidate who clearly has a mandate. And I'm not saying everybody should support you, Mindy, I'm just saying you're the person with the courage to do it. And I'm not overstating how courageous it is to do what you're doing in Oakland. It's completely courageous. And so I just say to the people that are on the fence, what do you want, man? You want more executions at Laney College of really great people? Or do you want something different? I'll tell you this. If you were to, and I didn't want to turn this into Mindy campaign hour, but I can't help myself. If you want somebody to actually have, to talk to the police and be all over this like a pit bull, it's Mindy. It's somebody who has her principles. So there you go. There's your commercial. But it's just, every day it's another murder. It's like, I'm not crazy. Mindy, you're not crazy. We're not crazy. What's crazy is no Republicans in the city council at all. That's crazy. Like, think about that. I don't think there's any council except San Francisco and Oakland. That's a big city. Even LA has a few Republicans on there. It's fixed. So it's either a propaganda. I know I'm preaching. It's either a propaganda fix where everybody's just mind controlled, or it's intimidation where everybody's afraid to stand up, or it's we will destroy your reputation in your life if you actually try to run and have an R next to your name. But see, Mindy is unflappable. They did not see her coming. And they've done all sorts of stuff to you, and you won't stop. So that's why you have my support, because you're really legitimately trying to make a change. And people need to understand it's not just lunatic liberals in Oakland. There are some people that have common sense. And I appreciate the fact that people may, completely, whatever. Donald Trump, The Apprentice, love him or hate, it is what it is. Mindy's not responsible for anybody but Mindy, right? So when she's campaigning and you want to ask her about the president, be respectful, because we all should be respectful of the president, whoever they are. I was respectful of Joe Biden until I realized, hey, this whole thing's a scam. These things happen. So bottom line is, it's if Oakland wants change, I'll stop preaching. They need to stop voting in Democrats left and right. If you get, and here's my thing, if you get an opportunity to not do that, take the opportunity. And if they put Lauren up again against Barbara or whatever they do, which I doubt, it's just a shell game. It's a scam, because Lauren Taylor was part of defunding the police. He tried to track it back, but there's evidence. He was part of that. He's the same stuff. So anyway, I'm just getting involved in, I guess I'm meddling in Oakland. All right. Mindy,
Keep meddling.
I'll give you the last word. I'm sorry. I said we were going to end and I started just flapping my jaws. Okay. I promise to not talk after you. Mindy, last word.
Okay. Last word. I love it. Just take Jason's advice, okay, on what he just said. I support that 100%. And go to my website. It's electmindy.com. Simple, electmindy.com. I keep it updated as much as I can with new statements, new videos. Like I'll be putting this video up on my website. And if you can, I would ask, even put in a contribution. I could use it to help me get around. So that's my website. Thanks, Jason. And join me to make a better Oakland, to make a better California, to make a better United States. And God bless us all.
Amen.
Amen.
And we are now in election season, so I'm going to actively support conservative candidates, just so you guys know. I cannot, me personally, I cannot, after what I'm seeing in California, every day it's another thing. Even the San Francisco guy did something completely abusing power with every day it's something in politics in Northern California. It's wild. So we need to stop doing this thing with the liberals out here. They're just robbing everybody blind. So so check out Mindy's website, and God bless you guys. Thank you, Mindy, and everyone stay safe. So last thing we'll say is obviously follow us and subscribe. Follow me and Mindy and Jason J. Daniel. I do sports on TikTok. If you're into sports, I probably will do a TikTok on this situation because it is definitely related with John.
Yeah.
And our hearts go out to the family, thoughts and prayers, which is a real thing. And rest in peace to him. And God bless you guys. Stay safe. Go with God, and take care, guys. Thank you, Mindy. Thanks again.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, great.